I'd like to share today is this idea that I think really is sort of bantered around a little bit, but it's not really absorbed. I think that the idea is used in marketing, so to speak. And I know that Madison Avenue spends, billions of dollars to try to capture the essence of this idea. But if you're doing it for those reasons, then you're not really doing it. You know, the oak is contained within the acorn. So every acorn out there is the potential of an oak tree. And as it grows and the acorn realizes it's no longer an acorn and now it's an oak tree, it goes on to continue to thrive and produce acorns and live the life that an oak tree lives because it's an oak tree. And I think that's really what we need to see and approach our lives with is that same position. I'm talking about authenticity, but more like I think it's called Vasana. It's a Hindu term, I believe, that is sort of like the smell of your personality or the essence of who you are. It's the oak tree within the acorn. And I think that being authentic to yourself is probably the single most important context that you can bring into every activity in your life. To bring in who you are, who you really are. A lot of us, we want to be someone, or we want to get somewhere. We have goals. We have something we want to accomplish, or something we want to experience, or something we want to be. And through this process, for me at least, it was oftentimes discovering who I wasn't, or what I didn't want to do, or what I didn't want to be. And as I shaved off these different things in my younger years, the oak tree started to take root. And I started to realize who I am. And I was willing to be vulnerable and be that person, step out and share the oak tree. And as I did that, I got nourishment. I got nourishment from my community. I got support from my community. If I had thought I was this is the problem. Many of us who are these grand oak trees that will provide shade and resources and all kinds of benefit to the environment, we're acorns that don't realize that we're oak trees. We think that we're like poison ivy, or we think we're some swamp grass, which I'm sure these all have their important roles in the environment as well. But if you're really an oak tree and you think that you're poison ivy, will you ever be able to truly produce the acorns that you're meant to produce? You might produce a few, but you're always going to be looking for poison ivy food and poison ivy environments. But when you start to realize who you really are, who it is that this vasana, this essence, for me, I tell this story of that, I've been selling since I was 2 years old, because it was known that I would knock on doors, my neighbors' doors. I'd sneak out of the house, knock on neighbors' doors, and ask them for cookies. I even snuck to the convenience store one day and got a lady. I'm 2 years old, and I got a lady to buy me some candy while I was at the store. Now, mind you, in today's day, my parents would have been arrested for child neglect and all kinds of things. But back in the '60s, it was a little different. But my point being is that most of the people on the outside of me knew I was a salesperson, knew that I had a business mind, knew that I would fall into some entrepreneurial type role. I didn't. To tell you the truth, I didn't understand who I was. I didn't see this. I heard what people said, but I felt I was going through the imposter complex. I felt like a fraud. I saw my failures in sales. I saw my failures in business. I saw my failures in the entrepreneurial efforts that I made. And I didn't quite realize that while all this was going on, it was like the environments on a young sapling. You know, a young sapling has to deal with wind and excessive rain and animals, and you might have to go through this for several years until it becomes a hardened oak tree. And I think the same is in our lives. I think that you know, or at least you're working through a process of discovering who you're not. And if you haven't really figured out who you are, it's okay. Keep going through that process. Keep willing to be vulnerable and take risks and have new experiences and do new things so that you can become that oak tree that you are. And so my one big takeaway from this talk would be, yes, it's about being authentic. And I get it, but it's not so that you can get more sales. It's not so that you can be more liked. It's not so that more people will see your social media posts. It's so that you can be more comfortable in this world. It's so that you can operate in a position without doubt. It's so that you can move forward. And even though we can't script every moment, when we understand what our essence is, we can actually move towards something. I hope you all have a fantastic week.